Hello and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be talking through some of the techniques to create Jake Sully from Avatar. This is how I did the background. So let's start with the background. So I got one paint stroke like this and then basically did this, or like kind of moved the controller in a way where it kind of looks like those plants, and since it's going to be in the background and blurred out, like it wasn't going to be fully modeled, but it just needed enough detail to give you like the hint like that there's a background there, but it's just a stroke. And then I went in and cloned it. So let's just add a glow so it's like easier to see. So I cloned it like this, really easy. Kind of adjusted the scale jitter and cloned heaps of it and kind of spread it out a bit. And that's basically all that you needed to do with the stroke. And then you go in and you change the properties. So change it to like a purplish kind of color, maybe darker. Add some finish, maybe make it more metallic or waxy. Most of the things in this scene, they're pretty metallic. Like some of the highlighted areas, I have some spotlights pointed in that direction to highlight some of the areas of the tree, just to give some variety to the stroke and a bit of gradient in the background, so that highlighted area in the background is just being lit by a light. So that's how you get some variation in the stroke. And something else that I did with the background, like if I go into it, you can see like it has this kind of ripple separated effect to it, and I just went into the stroke properties and have the flex density kind of like this. It gives a different texture in the background there, but I kind of went with 59% on the stroke. And this is the properties of the stroke. So there's the color, tint amount. So that's pretty much it. And then the last thing I did was added physics to it. So you go physical to give it some waviness, and these are the properties here. So the floppiness is 17%, wind strength 8%, and yeah, those are the properties. And I duplicated it across to create the background. And because I'm lazy, I got an asset that was already pre-made by Media Molecule and just placed it in the scene. And this is the papyrus plant. So if I search for plant in the Dreamiverse, and there's a lot of really cool assets. Like there's always something against using assets, but if it cuts your time and your workflow down, then just use it, you know. Then I just adjusted the properties. I went in, select all of it, and adjusted the properties to make it glow a bit more. Changed the color up a little bit, made it blue. You know, there's heaps of stuff that you can do with the prize plant, and this was the effect that I ended up with. And I just placed it around the scene, and yeah, that's pretty much the background. As for the lighting, I have to go back to the original state. So originally, this is what he looked like, and this is like a placeholder to kind of get the lighting correct. If I look at the photo, I wanted that kind of backlit highlight around the shoulder area, around the side of the head, and on the side of the cheek here. And I used this as a base to get all of the detail with the light. So I wanted the shadow under the neck, the highlights, and I also wanted the pink kind of glow on the side. And it was just placing the lights in a certain way to get these kinds of effects. And then after when I placed the lights in, I then added a bit more detail, kind of built on top of what I had there. And these are some photos from other people that played through the creation. So I started with this and then kind of sculpted my way and added in more detail. And yeah, you try to do as much as you can with the light and the 3D modeling, and then afterwards you think about like how you paint the texture and add like texture to it. So here with the ear, for example, what I did with the ear, I spray painted the ear to get that subsurface scattering. So this isn't light, it's actually the texture on the ear to kind of give that effect of light. But the ear is actually half pink and then half blue, but it's not actually light going through it, it's just like simulating that effect. That's how you can get the bounce light. But if I move it over here, you can see like how the trick is being done. And it's also supported with lights. So there are lights pointing towards the ear to give the glowing effect. So if I move it over here, it doesn't really make sense. But if I move it within that light source and also with these material properties, it gives you that kind of effect that you want. So if I change the material, you can see there's too much highlights, you know, there's too much waxiness, and I kind of tweak the materials in a way to kind of get what I want out of it. So if I have it like really shiny and then go into it, it doesn't look right. So what you need to do is kind of tweak the material, the lighting, the painting, like all of it kind of combined in a very specific kind of way to kind of get the effect that you want. And it's the same thing with the hair or anything like that. So with the hair, where it's like with materials where it's furry or like where there's kind of hair, it's really easy to do in Dreams. Like say if I get this cube and just place it here, and if I want it to be hairy, I just go in and adjust the fleck properties, make it loose, like this. And then it's kind of like, you can see the flex here is like square, but you can kind of fix that with the style mode and then select the flex, and you have a couple of options. This is my favorite one at the end. Or you can try a few to give you that kind of texture. So you can see how it kind of makes the difference, like in what kind of textures you can get. And it depends on like the thing you're trying to create. You can also comb it. So you can comb the texture to move in a certain direction. So you can get pretty interesting results here. You can also make it more loose if you want, or make it less loose. So you can achieve more texture kind of stuff, if that makes any sense. And then on top of it, you can paint using a surface snap, and add more texture to it. So once you have the base texture, you also add in the detailed kind of texture work, like just add in more detail, and then you have something pretty unique to play with. And you can also soft blend it into the shape. And that's pretty much the main technique that I use to create his hair. So I have the base with the flex kind of loose, and then on top of it, I added the extra detail with the kind of paint stroke. And with paint strokes, you can also add a little bit of a swaying. You can add some physics to it to have it kind of sway a little bit. These are the physics properties. So I have the throb on 9.5, the wave on 3, and I can, I try to make it like subtle, like move really subtle. And these are the properties here. And these properties are working with the lighting, and is also, I'm selective with what kind of color I use. So this is like using a white paint stroke because it's in the light, and I wanted that kind of back lighting when light kind of shines through the hair. And there are a couple of other tricks that I do, like contrast. So things where there's not enough pop, I go in with either spray painting it to kind of bake it in, or adding some more detail with the paint mode. Between those two, so within the actual sculpt itself, I kind of paint it with the spray paint tool. So you can add different kind of things to the surface, and then if it doesn't have enough punch, I then go in and add the paint strokes to the eyeball. But then it's also supported with the surrounding lights as well, so it's all of them kind of combined to give that effect. As for the 3D modeling, it's pretty easy in Dreams. I mainly use the sphere tool, and then I go to the settings and I adjust it to about blend, like halfway, the blend amount. And then once you place one here and then you clone it, so I go from point A to point B. So this is point A over here, point B over here, and then I just duplicate it to create the kind of line that I want it to be. So it's kind of like working with a Bezier curve, or like in a vector-based kind of program. And what you can do is draw in 3D with this line and kind of make it move at any kind of shape that you want it to go. And you're kind of working with a Bezier handle. You can make one side smaller or thinner, and you have full control over this kind of line. And you can also like look around in 3D space at the line. You have a lot of control over this, and you can make pretty complex kind of shapes with it as well. So, and have a lot of control over what kind of shape you want. So I start off with like the main kind of sphere for like the head, and then the jaw, like this, and then the kind of neck area, and then I duplicate it to kind of create the neck. And then for the shoulders, you can just keep working like this. It's like drawing in 3D. Like this is too straight, I can kind of curve it to the shape that I want it to be, go around to the next angle and curve it downwards. You know, I have full control over how I want it to go. And then from here, between point A and B, I then connect it together, move it over to point B, and just clone it in between. And then that's kind of like the chest area, right? And then the arms, you just go point A to point B, think about where you want the elbow to go, and just clone it like this, bend it around a little bit, and that's your elbow kind of area. And then from here, clone it. But of course I'm working with reference, like I'm working with like a picture from my phone while I'm doing it, and really analyzing the photo and thinking of the angles and all of that. So that helps a lot as well. But you can see, like, you can build a lot with just the sphere. And then from here, if you want to add some more detail, I usually start with the center of the head and then think about the eyebrows. So eyebrows is just point A and point B, and then I kind of sculpt the eyebrows like this, and I'm working with reference to see the angles again and just bringing out that detail. The nose, and there's a lot of things you can do with that. Something else that I like is the curve tool, and this kind of works in a very similar kind of way. But sometimes when I'm working with a sphere, you don't really have that much control. But this also gives you the same type of control, but there's some more things you can do with it. Like if you want to get really specific and add that kind of specific detail, this tool works wonders as well. And it works just like a Bezier handle kind of tool. So those are the main things I use to 3D model. It's just the sphere and also the curve. And if I wanted some sharp areas or something, I just place it there and then kind of adjust the blend amount. And then if I want those kind of sharp detail, like in the eyebrows for example, I can kind of blend the sharp edge into what I have and get that detail that I need. You can also play with proportions, like once you have it in there, you can press triangle and kind of minus areas. So I usually go with a sphere because it's kind of like molding like a clay sculpture and turning up the blend amount to about 50. And now you're just kind of molding it into shape by taking away the shape, and then you can kind of mold it into proportion and keep it nice and smooth as well. So that's also another 3D modeling technique that I use. And it's a combination of all of these techniques in order to get this. I'm also working with photo reference, and I can get really specific, and you know, complex stuff like the mouth, you know, it's just the same kind of thing. If I wanted to create the lips, so here I have a blend amount 50%, stamp it into place, and then just thinking about point A and point B, and you can also break it up Like you can clone things and break it up and position it where you want it to go. And once you position it, you just clone stuff to kind of go into that direction. And then you got the shape that you want, and then go over here and kind of draw in that lip. So it's basically just drawing a line in 3D and having full control over how you bend that line. And then, yeah, that's pretty much the techniques that I use. And then the things like the dots on his face, I just use a paint stroke with the snap turned on, surface snap, and then I just kind of draw like a veiny kind of texture, like this, like veins going down his face, for example. And it doesn't look like dots at the moment, but just like the tree in the background, you can go to the stroke properties and then turn down the fleck density and have control over like how you want the dots to spread. You can also fade in and fade out to kind of blend it in a bit more. You can adjust the glow and have flexibility on how you want those dots to be controlled. You could, if you want, like I was thinking about it, I was thinking why not just place dots on his face and go boom, boom, boom. I mean, I can do that, but then again, I want those options, I want control, and I want to be able to tweak so that I can see different kinds of results, and that's why I went that kind of route with just drawing a line and adjusting the properties. So it just gives me a little bit of room to go left or right, you know, and give me different things to experiment with. yeah, that's a little bit of some of the insight over how I created Jake Sully in Dreams. I hope you learned something and use it in your own work and stuff. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.